Welcome to Faith on Film with Isaac Hernandez and Holly McClure. Keeping you informed on faith and family entertainment.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Faith on Film. We've got another great show for you today. First of all, Holly McClure will be speaking with Thaddeus O'Sullivan. He's the director of a new movie, The Miracle Club, which opens in theaters this July 14th. Then Jenn Gotson Chandler, who's the producer and star of the movie The Farmer the Belle, Saving SANTALAND, will be here to speak about her new documentary, What is True Beauty? But first, let's take a look at the trailer for The Miracle Club.
Ladies, what's the name?
The Miracles.
First prize, 2 tickets to Lourdes. Best of luck.
He's so fine. Wish he were mine.
What do you want to be going to Lourdes for anyway?
I always wanted to go there.
If you go out that door, don't bleeding bother coming back.
Miracles happen there.
He could speak.
How are you, Chrissie?
My mother is dead. I'm in a place I swore I would never come back to. Hi. I wouldn't have recognized you.
40 years, but do that, do you?
I'd say, yeah, mixed.
Yes, but it's great to have her back.
Marvelous. Bloody marvelous.
Congratulations. You're coming to Lourdes.
Who's going to have to do the cooking and the cleaning? Not me, I can tell you, that's your job.
What'll I do on me own?
I'll be back before you know it. You will. Holy Mary, Mother of God.
Welcome to Lourdes.
Appears I am sharing with you. Is there only one bed?
Your ma wouldn't have fussed.
I am not my mother.
Ain't that the truth?
We're ready.
I'm not.
Why did you leave?
Leave? I was banished, Eileen.
I loved you, and you left.
I'm glad you came home. Can you ever forgive me?
You don't come to Lourdes for a miracle, Eileen. You come for the strength to go on when there is no miracle.
You're still alive.
Oh, just about.
And there's always hope.
Peace. That's what I hope for.
I think I had me a miracle.
What?
I actually missed you.
Thaddeus, hello. So wonderful to speak with you. And I want to thank you for making an interesting road trip with older women and making it actually intellectual, not just goofy and campy, but really something of substance. I love this movie.
Oh, right. Oh, great.
I did. And I love the time period set in the 60s. I mean, when there was the women like that, you know, there probably still are today, but especially at that time and place and culture. And, you know, you first got involved with this project 15 years ago, didn't you?
Round about that, yeah. HBO were involved at one point and they asked me to do it. And then there were some issues, legal issues, I think. And I dropped out anyway. And I thought it had gone away. And then about 2 or 3 years ago, I was working with a friend, or it was a friend, a writer I had worked with, said the producer wanted me to come back in. And he was working on it. So that was interesting to go back and work with him. And so anyway, that's how I got back involved. I was delighted to get back as well. I'm glad you like it. I'm glad you think it is all those things. That mixture of drama and comedy and, you know, being religious, but also being a little bit not too pious is also, you know, a balance, a bit of a balancing act.
It is. But I mean, you had an amazing cast, let's face it, to work with. Maggie Smith, Kathy Bates, you know, Linney, and then Agnes O'Casey. She was a newcomer, wasn't she, kind of?
Yeah, she was amazing as well. Yeah. And she was, you know, she hasn't been in the business very long. She went to acting school and she's done a couple of TV things and she did this. But she seems to hold her own quite well among all that talent.
Now, were the talent booked when you took on the project, or did you take the project on and then you got the talent? Because that kind of is interesting.
Yeah, so when I was first involved all that time ago, Maggie Smith and Kathy Bates were involved. Jimmy Smallhorn had brought them in, the original writer, and so then, like I say, I had nothing to do with it for a very long time. And then when I got involved, we got Linney in.
Well, it's hard to probably encapsulate all of the wonderful moments of working with these women and the scenes that you did. I know Kathy said she really related with her character, with her own mother, as she got into developing her own character. Did you find these roles start at one place but grew as you were directing the film to a whole different?
Well, I found you always want to you're always a bit suspicious when there are stars connected to a movie, that they are they well cast, are they right for these characters, and so that and I thought they were, so I decided to make the film. But to answer your question, during the course of every day, it was an absolute joy to see the instinct that they had for these characters and the energy that they put into winkling out, getting to the heart of them. They were, and there were two things there. One was I was looking at these extraordinary actors at work, which was an absolute privilege. But I was also looking at discovering these characters. That they were finding. I mean, Maggie Smith on a set, she would improvise all kinds of little things, and they weren't just sort of arbitrary things. They were things that came out of character, and they were all like that. Laura and Kathy as well. They would go around the set and they would poke and push and feel and look, and really get a sense of the characters, and then they'd add their little bits, and they were so good at that. That was like amazing experience watching them. And my feeling when you see that kind of engagement, that kind of chemistry, not just with with the other, but with the set as well. You leave it alone, you just try and get the camera in the right place and let the rest take care of itself.
What was one of your favorite scenes, or more memorable, that now that you've seen the film, that you love directing?
Oh, that I love directing, or that?
Well, the scene that you directed, you're like, yeah, that turned out like I wanted it to, or was beyond what you thought.
Well, the most terrifying scene to contemplate was the scene where they discuss giving birth and abortions, and that was terrifying because I had the 4 actors in a room with 6 pages of dialogue, and you had to shoot it you only had the day to shoot it. And it's trying to make a room with only just a roof of 4 walls interesting visually. Of course, that went out the window straight away because you're looking at these 4 actors. So the only thing that's interesting in the room is the actor.
Exactly.
But the performances in that scene were just amazing.
They were.
Yeah. And they just, they were just so wonderful. And that's the film, that's the moment where Agnes O'Casey, I was wondering how she's going to deal with this. She was just so collected and centered. She was admirable, really, the way she dealt with it.
The story is called The Miracle Club. And of course, it's about Lady of Lourdes, and people are familiar with that, is in France, and the story behind all that. But it's really more about the journey, isn't it? Not so much the miracles as and there are a few in the film, I think, but it's more about the journey that these women take to go there and what they go through with their own characters.
Yes, exactly what they go through. I think that when they start off, they're on a I think you said it at the beginning, it's like a road movie. They're on a road trip, they get into the car and they go and they leave everything behind. I kept thinking of Thelma and Louise which is a very, very different film. But I kept thinking at the beginning of that film, when they have abusive husbands and they have to get out of the house and they have kids and they basically run to get out of the house, get in the car and go, and they're on their road movie. Okay, so in a way, it's kind of similar. They have to get out from under the husbands, who are not violent to them, but they're cranky and self-obsessed, and they need to get out of the house. And I just love that notion. So they're not, and they want, a couple of them want a miracle. It would be nice, but they also want to be. They also will have imbibed the whole spirit of Lourdes, which I grew up with, which is that if you go there, you will have a spiritual experience, whether you're an unbeliever or not. You will get something from it. And I think that they know that. They might not get a miracle, but they will. Maybe the Kathy Bates character is unhappy she didn't get her miracle. But the others really, and even she gets something. Laura Linney has to say to her in the bus that's going home, she said, okay, you've been to Lourdes, but did you go to a doctor?
Yes.
I was going to Lourdes. As if, what would I need a doctor for?
Well, as a matter of fact, you had a personal experience in your own family with your father and mother who went to Lourdes because of your father's illness. And I mean, you already had that in your youth and in your genes, so to speak, to even directing this movie.
Oh, very much so. And their experience was not to go and look for a miracle. Their experience was my mother had prayed for my father to be better, prayed to Our Lady to intercede on their behalf. And then my father got better, and they went to say thank you. And they went to say, so the image of them getting on the plane and going, there's a picture of them on the tarmac at Dublin Airport with the diocesan group, and they look so happy because their prayers were answered. My mother never referred to it as a miracle. She just said our prayers were answered, and that was a thing that you heard a lot. My prayers were answered, and I've never had that experience with prayer, but I grew up with it.
And your life's not over yet, Thaddeus. You still gonna have that experience.
Well, I know how to say them.
Oh, exactly. But tell about, it was touching to me to read that there was actually a young girl who was an extra in a scene who actually was ill. And then she died, I guess, after production. But, the mother said, no, keep her in the film. I thought that was so touching.
So I talked to her this morning because we're having a screening in Ireland. I can't go, but I wanted her to go to make sure that she went. So she was very brave. She came on the set. We asked for people to come who were disabled, had disabilities. A number of people came, and she brought Amelie with her. And Amelie had Rett syndrome, which is a degenerative disease. You're not going to survive. And she had a beautiful child when she was born, and then and for some time afterwards, and then the degeneration sets in. It's terrible thing. And she was on the set. She was awake for the first half of the day, and then the second half of the day, she fell asleep. So I didn't have much of a chance to talk to her, and then 2 or 3 weeks later. She died. So I sent a rough cut of the scene to the mother and said, do you want her in the film or not? Because it's up to you, really. I don't know how you feel about that kind of thing. And she said, oh, no, I'd love it. I'd love to have that memory. So she's going to see it. She's going to see it next week.
So you actually had real extras there that must have been an interesting atmosphere on the set.
Yes, because a lot of people, we were in Dublin, a lot of people shot it. We built a set in Dublin, so a lot of people had been to Lourdes.
Right.
And they were 95% Catholic, and there was no great discussion about the culture because everybody grew up in it, they knew it. And they recognized, the crew recognized it. Everybody knew what we were doing here. And a lot of the exes, like you say, were familiar with all of that and had been to Lourdes. And I don't think Amelie had been to Lourdes. I don't recall her mother mentioning it. And I don't even know what she thought about Lourdes.
Well, this movie, I mean, there are funny moments. There are touching moments. I think women from all different backgrounds, and men actually, will relate to this movie. But it's not just a movie for older people, is it?
Well, no. I mean, it's got a lot of older people in it, but
but I mean, it's like a mentoring movie to me. I mean, it's like for younger generations should see this, 20s and 30-year-olds. And this has got amazing storylines in it and points to be made.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it brings older people to life, as well. For me too, because although I'm an older person, I tend to look at older people as older than me.
Me too.
So, we've all got something to learn about older people. But absolutely, and I think, bringing up children is also a lovely part of it. And the history of children in it is interesting. And,
yes.
Young people will find that a contemporary thing as well. Some of the scenes with the young children are interesting. And the Agnes O'Casey character is very relatable, definitely. She's very fantastic.
I love what a priest says. I love the line, you come for a miracle. You don't come for a miracle. You come for the strength to go through what you're going through for the miracle. I mean, it was something to that effect. I love that line in the movie because it really wasn't like, you're not coming for a miracle. You're coming for the strength to get through whatever you're going through. How many people need that?
Yes, it's the strength. When you don't get a miracle, it's he says, when you don't get a miracle, it's to have the strength to move on. When you don't get a miracle, and when she gets on the bus, we can't hear her properly in the mix at the moment, but she gets off the bus and she goes, because I'm not sure that's enough for me. She's thinking, but she gets on the bus and Linney talks to her, and she comes around. She realizes that she has, I've learned not to hate you. And I've learned, I feel so guilty about hating you in the past. And I don't hate you anymore. So she's a miracle, And so Chrissie and the Linney character reminds her, it's all very well, you went to Lourdes, but you should go and see a doctor.
But it's the power of love and forgiveness, isn't it? Yeah. Of love, forgiveness, and it's that whole relationship part of it as well. I just feel like this is, such a great film, and I thank you for the nuances and the directing. And oh my gosh, Stephen Ray was in it. I love him, and you got such a good cast. It all made so believable. It made it so not believable, but relatable and believable.
Oh, fantastic! That's great.
Yeah. Yes.
But no, you're right about the expectation of Lourdes is that something will happen.
Yes.
You're not going for a miracle. You're leaving everything behind. The Thelma and Louise, you're leaving everything behind. Something's going to happen. I'm going to have an adventure. And they go to Lourdes, and the adventure is almost always a spiritual one, not necessarily a religious one, I think, for some people. Because a lot of non-believers feel quite humbled by being there and seeing such a gathering of people focused on their spirituality. Yeah. Well,
you are quite an amazing director. You've had an award-winning background. I loved Into the Storm with Ridley Scott. I mean, there's a whole plethora of movies you've done, and you're working on a film, Hidden Assets, right now, right? The series.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm in where am I? I'm in Montreal. Yeah. We're just editing the film here. We shot it in Ireland and in Belgium. But weirdly, we're editing the film here, so that tells you all you need to know about how the finance of a film is put together. So that's where I am now.
Well, I congratulate you on that. I look forward to watching that as well. And make more movies in America. Come on, Thaddeus. Make more films. And I pray that you get that prayer answered still. Your life's not over yet. You got a lot going on. So I bet you God's going to speak to you in amazing ways still. Thanks so much. Thank you for being with me.
Lovely to talk to you. Take care.
Lovely too.
Thank you, Holly. That was a wonderful interview. I'm here now, though, with Jenn Gotson Chandler, who has been in so many movies that I don't even want to list what they are because we'll be here the whole time just doing that. But she did play Nixon's daughter, Tricia, in the Oscar-nominated Frost Nixon, directed by Ron Howard. Now, she's also a producer known for her film in which she starred along with her husband, Jim Chandler, The Farmer and the Belle, Saving Santaland. She's here today, though, to talk about her latest project, a documentary called What is True Beauty? Jenn, welcome back to Faith on Film.
Hey, Isaac and Holly. I love you guys so much.
Okay, wait a minute. Did you eat a watermelon or what's going on there?
Well, maybe it was a 25-pound medicine ball. Well, we are actually due in 6 days with a little baby girl named Savannah in honor of the movie location that my husband Jim and I met on years and years and years ago.
Oh, wow. Well, as a matter of fact, you know what? I mentioned that you were the producer and starred in, along with Jim, on a movie called Saving Santaland. Now, I had a little bit of involvement in that with you guys. But tell me, how is the movie doing and where can people still watch it?
Absolutely. So The Farmer and the Belle, BELLE, Saving SANTALAND. How great is it for Christmas in July? But we have streamed over 100 million minutes. We've been a bestseller on Amazon. We trended a year ago as one of the top Christmas movies. We are now on Peacock and Tubi. We're making our sequel. And so I would say you can watch it on Peacock, Tubi, YouTube, basically anywhere where you're watching your movies. And Amazon is another way that you could take a look at.
That's fantastic. Folks, make sure and do that. Now, you have also produced now, though, a documentary, What is Beauty, which I think it kind of is tied to the movie in some way. Can you tell us all about that?
Absolutely. So the documentary, What is True Beauty, really dives in from a prayer perspective to be able to help women of all ages, but I would say women who are in their 40s and upwards to the very mature, to really understand how do we see ourselves as God sees us, a magnificent masterpiece. And that is the theme of our movie, The Farmer and the Belle. And so we take 5 strategic strategies that have been researched, prayed over, and that follows the inscriptions on the bracelet that my character loses. For example, one of the messages is about being a joyful giver. And from our research, Isaac, and our test groups, we learned that when we have a special gift that God has given each one of us, and we take that gift, as it tells us in 1 Peter, and we use that gift to serve others, but with joy. The joy that radiates attracts more people into the life of our hearts. And it's because it's Jesus's joy. And that is way more attractive than having the perfect hair and the perfect skin and the best of this and that. And so that's what the documentary is, What is True Beauty? I take us through prayer-activated exercises. We interview John Schneider and Corbin Burnson and Henry Cho and some of these men that are icons, and they literally tell us what they think is beautiful. And ladies, let me tell you, it is not looks that they're talking about. See, What is True Beauty is now on Tubi and YouTube for free. And it's just a great 40 minutes to sit down and really be activated by the love that God has specifically for you.
Okay, but so you mentioned women, 40 and I don't know what other, over, but of course also young ladies. But it sounds like those attributes you're talking about are attributes that males can also have. Can I possess true beauty?
Of course. One of our friends over at Christian Movies, when he watched the documentary, he was in tears and he explained that the messages in this movie have struck a chord so deep inside of him from when he was young and overweight, and how he realizes that God has made him a magnificent masterpiece. And so when I was a teen, I wanted to be in that popular crowd, as I'm sure most girls did. And I didn't have social media. And then as an adult, I went through a divorce, and I felt so unlovable, and those pains that I had as a child echoed. And so I wanted to find healing, and I went to the scriptures, and I spent fasting time with Jesus. And as an actress, I've been acting for a long time, I used visualizations of the scriptures of how God says that our body and soul are marvelously made. And I would take the pieces of my body that I felt so uncomfortable with, and I would just imagine giving it to Jesus. And I would imagine Jesus just breathing his truth of scripture over me. And root by root, I started to heal. And I was like, I need to help other girls, teens, women. And this starts at a very young age, around age 5. Girls are seeing other women, other pictures, and saying, oh, that's what their belly looks like. I need to look like that. And that's where we need, as loving adults, to come alongside our youth and really help uplift them. And that's why What is True Beauty, our documentary, is phenomenal. And our new book that we just released for teens called Beauty and Likes.
Okay. Now, would you say that social media has kind of really enhanced that problem of these girls thinking that they have to be these models, because, they even have filters now where even if you don't look that beautiful, but these filters make you look like some kind of model. I mean, it just seems like that's what the world is portraying, is you have to be beautiful outside.
Yeah, and that is 1,000% accurate. We have a depression increase of over 50%. We have a suicide increase by over 35% since social media started to come around. And that's exactly what happens. And Dr. Lynette Sim explains to us psychologically what happens in our book, What is True Beauty, and in our documentary, is that when we post a photo, and we get a like or a share or a heart, it releases the endorphins in the brain, which creates this feeling of feeling up, which feels good. So now when you reverse that and you post a photo and you don't get that response, it actually activates the opposite, causing the feeling of depression.
All right. So what is True Beauty? Where, what's the best place for people to follow you or to learn more about this? I know you mentioned all these places where they can see it, but one location where they can go to and get all the information.
Yeah, is our website, The Farmer and the Belle, BELLE, like Beauty and the Beast Belle, thefarmerandthebelle.net. And that is like a one-stop shop. You'll be able to see all the things.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Jenn. I know that you potentially could have a baby any minute now, so I'm going to let you go just in case. Folks, this is it for our show today. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Write to us at faithonfilmtv@gmail.com. That's faithonfilmtv@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Faith on Film TV. Also, go to our YouTube channel, Faith on Film TV, and hit the subscribe button and the bell for notifications on our latest Faith on Film shows.